Welcome to BookCast, where books speak and you grow. Here we bring the world's most powerful books to life, breaking down their big ideas, life lessons, and hidden gems, so you can learn, grow, and transform. One chapter at a time. Before we begin, if you love learning and growing through books, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us bring more great books to life for you. New book breakdowns every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday only here on BookCast. Let the book speak and let your journey begin. Now, this is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko. Before diving into the story of The Millionaire Next Door, let's look at the real minds behind this book. Thomas J. Stanley was a researcher obsessed with evidence. He didn't sit in an office imagining what wealthy people might be like. He spent years interviewing real millionaires, gathering financial data, analyzing habits, tracking spending, documenting behavior, and asking one question with scientific precision. What do the truly wealthy actually do in real life? William D. Danko was an academic who took the research even further, bringing statistical analysis into this world of personal finance. His role wasn't to tell inspirational stories. His role was to turn inspiration into predictable patterns, things we can measure, things we can check, things we can see repeating again and again. Together, these two didn't write a fantasy motivational book. They wrote a mirror that shows what wealth really looks like in the real world. And spoiler, it's not what most people imagine. The average person imagines the millionaire as someone in a big house, luxury cars, designer clothes, and a life that screams status. But the data tells a different truth, a truth that the majority of the world never sees, because the true millionaire avoids the spotlight. The real millionaire lives next door, in a normal neighborhood, in a normal house, driving a normal car, shopping at normal stores, earning good money, yes, but more importantly, keeping money. Because here is the brutal truth this book reveals. Most people don't become poor because they don't earn money. Most people become poor because they spend more than they earn. Wealth is not income. Wealth is what you keep. The millionaire next door doesn't act rich. They behave rationally. They buy value, not status. They invest, not impress. They are not trying to show you they're rich. They're trying to actually be rich. They are invisible. And this is where the story begins. Picture a normal neighborhood. You walk past the houses and you would never guess who has wealth and who is drowning. The flashy guy with the brand new luxury car? He might be heavily financed, living paycheck to paycheck just to look rich. But the quiet guy with the old car, the guy whose lawn is always neat, who never brags about money, who brings the simple lunch to work, that guy might be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions in investment accounts. The millionaire next door is not defined by the brands they wear, but by the discipline they live with. And the hidden engine behind this discipline is something shocking. The majority of millionaires in America are first-generation rich. They were not born into wealth. Their parents weren't rich. Their parents weren't investors. Their parents were not leaving inheritances or trust funds. They built wealth from scratch. Through consistent saving, smart investment, controlled spending, and living far below their means. They don't wait for a lucky moment. They don't wait for a jackpot. They don't wait for a rescue. They build, slowly, patiently, and with extreme clarity. In this world, there are two types of people. Consumers who chase status and producers who chase assets. The consumer spends to look successful. The producer invests to actually become successful. The consumer buys liabilities. The producer buys freedom. And here is the painful part. Society rewards consumers socially, but punishes them financially. Society rewards producers financially, but ignores them socially. The millionaire knows this, so the millionaire chooses wealth instead of applause. They choose freedom instead of validation. They choose results instead of appearance. That's why they are invisible. That is why they are next door. And here is the biggest psychological shock. Most real millionaires don't feel wealthy. They just feel secure. They don't chase feelings. They chase independence. They chase control over time. They chase the power to say no to things they don't want. Wealth is not luxury. Wealth is options. Wealth is freedom, and the millionaire next door designs his life to increase freedom and reduce pressure. He lives a life where money works harder than ego. He doesn't care how his life looks to strangers, he cares how his balance sheet grows. He lives a life where compounding is the hero, patience is the fuel, and simplicity is the strategy. And this is the grand paradox of wealth: the more invisible your spending is, the more visible your wealth becomes on your financial statements. The poorer your profile looks to the world, the richer your life becomes in the long run. This is the foundation. And the book now begins to expose exactly how these people think. Now imagine this scene clearly. Two families, same neighborhood, same street, same salary, same number of kids, same education background, same city, same country. But 10 years later, one family is wealthy and the other is drowning in debt. How? The millionaire next door's wealth doesn't come from luck. It comes from behavior. The book shows that wealth is primarily a result of habits, not income. In fact, the authors discovered something shocking. Many people who have very high income are not wealthy at all. They look wealthy, but they are not. Because they spend aggressively. They leak money everywhere. They buy more house than they need, more car than they need, more clothes than they need, more dining out than they need, more vacations than they can afford. And here is one of the most eye-opening points from the research. The majority of real millionaires are self-employed small business owners. They run boring businesses, dry cleaning, construction subcontracting, car repair shops, HVAC companies. They don't have glamorous careers. They solve real problems in the real world. They don't care about being impressive. They care about margin, cost control, and cash flow. And those who are professionals with high income, like doctors, lawyers, consultants, many of them have lower wealth accumulation than small business owners with lower income. Why? Because high-income professionals often live in environments that pressure them to impress socially. Their social circle is expensive, their expectations are expensive, their lifestyle inflation is constant. They earn a lot, but they also spend a lot. They are victims of the trap: more money, more spending, zero net worth. The millionaire next door breaks that chain. He earns money, but he keeps it. And this is where one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book appears. They create and follow a household budget. They control their money. They track it. They measure it. They plan their consumption and investment intentionally. They do not let money flow randomly or emotionally. They don't spend reactively. They spend strategically. Because they understand that every pound or dollar they spend is not just money. It is a lost opportunity to invest and multiply. They treat money like seeds. Every seed can either be eaten immediately or planted with patience to grow into trees that will feed you for the rest of your life. And this is the philosophy behind frugality. Frugality is not cheapness. Frugality is control. Frugality is saying, I will sacrifice the emotion of status today in exchange for the power of freedom tomorrow. The millionaire next door doesn't hate spending. They just hate waste. They don't avoid pleasure. They avoid regret. They don't avoid buying. They avoid liabilities. They don't avoid living. They avoid impressing. They understand that status consumption is a tax that destroys the future. So they spend less on symbols and more on assets. They buy investments. They buy companies. They buy stocks. They buy property they can rent out. They increase their net worth every single month. This is why the book says, wealth is what you accumulate, not what you spend. And here is another crucial discovery of this research. Most millionaires marry people with similar values. Wealth is a team sport. You cannot build wealth while your partner is destroying it. You cannot build wealth while one of you is chasing stability and the other is chasing validation. You cannot build wealth when one is investing in freedom and the other is investing in appearances. The millionaire next door has a marriage based on shared values, shared goals, shared habits. The household is aligned, and this alignment multiplies wealth. The millionaire household is not a chaotic financial environment. It is a disciplined financial environment. They plan for the long term. They don't depend on inheritance. They don't depend on lottery. They don't depend on luck. They depend on discipline, planning, consistency, and investing. They live below their means, and they invest the difference. for decades. They don't sprint, they compound. And here is the most powerful truth. Compounding rewards the boring. Compounding rewards patience. Compounding punishes the impulsive. The millionaire next door is a long-term thinker in a world addicted to the short term. And the world misunderstands him. Society looks at him and assumes he is middle class. Society looks at him and assumes he is average. Society looks at him and assumes he cannot be wealthy because he doesn't show wealth. But he is wealthy precisely because he doesn't show it. And this is the irony that most people never understand. He knows that every luxury he shows becomes a trap he must maintain. He knows that when he buys status, he becomes a slave to the image he created. And the millionaire next door has zero interest in becoming a slave. Because here is the core psychological truth. Rich people seek freedom. Poor people seek validation. Rich people seek control. Poor people seek attention. Rich people want peace. Poor people want applause. Rich people want options. Poor people want approval. That's why the millionaire next door stays invisible. He doesn't need to look rich. He needs to be rich. Now let's go deeper into the mindset that creates this invisible wealth. One of the strongest concepts in the book is that wealthy people spend far more time planning their financial future than the average person. They think in decades. They calculate, they forecast, they track, they adjust. Wealthy people spend more hours per month planning investments, planning taxes, planning savings strategies, while non-wealthy people spend hours shopping, scrolling, comparing themselves to others, consuming content that stimulates desire, and feeding the addiction of wanting more. The millionaire next door controls desire. He doesn't let desire control him. He knows that every moment of wanting unnecessary things is a moment where financial power leaks away. And another key detail, the millionaire next door is extremely selective with who they take financial advice from. They don't take it from friends with no track record. They don't take it from family who are broke. They don't take it from someone who claims wealth without proof. They study credible sources, they look at data, they follow evidence, they listen to mentors who actually accumulated wealth through discipline and investing. They are not emotionally attached to the crowd. They are driven by logic, not trends. Now the authors go deeper into one of the biggest wealth killers, subsidizing adult children. Many wealthy parents destroy future wealth by giving their children too much money, too easily, without requiring responsibility, habit, work, or strategy. When children are financially supported without effort, they become consumption-driven adults. The millionaire next door doesn't enable dependency. They build independence. They teach their kids habits, not handouts. They teach their kids discipline, not entitlement. They teach them how to fish, not how to beg. Because wealth without character becomes disaster. Wealth with discipline becomes legacy. Now let's talk about career choice. The millionaire next door often chooses a career based on autonomy and control, not glamour and status. They prefer to own a business, manage time, control income, decide their future. They like being in the driver's seat of their financial destiny. They are not comfortable being fully dependent on one employer. They want to create value directly, not just be a replaceable part of a system. They would rather own a boring but profitable small business than be a fancy employee with a fragile paycheck. This is why they tend to be first-generation millionaires. They build slowly over decades by controlling their income and controlling their spending. And here is another critical idea. Wealthy people invest more in financial education than average people. They constantly learn, they study, they analyze markets, they read. They improve their understanding of how money behaves. Because money is a game, and most people don't know the rules. The millionaire next door studies the rules. They become a master of the game. They don't gamble, they strategize. They don't chase hot trends, they invest in proven fundamentals. They don't predict luck, they build probability. And over the years, this compound intelligence turns into compound wealth. Now we reach one of the final deep truths. The millionaire next door understands that wealth is a quiet result of ordinary consistent behaviors repeated over time. It's not a miracle. It's not a hack. It's not a secret strategy that only the elite have access to. It's a boring, patient, disciplined lifestyle that anyone can adopt. But few are willing to maintain. They measure net worth, not reputation. They measure assets, not applause. They measure freedom, not perception. They measure how much their money works for them, not how much they work for money. The millionaire next door is not defined by what they own. They're defined by what they refuse to buy. Their rejection of unnecessary consumption is their superpower. They buy time, they buy ownership, they buy passive income, they buy future independence. And because they do this consistently, they become the masters of their own life. They retire earlier, they stress less, they sleep better, they have control, they own their time. And owning your time is the highest form of wealth a human can experience. And here is the final and most powerful lesson this book teaches. Wealth is a result of values, not circumstances. You can come from nothing and still build everything if you adopt the values that create invisible wealth. Discipline, frugality, delayed gratification, long-term thinking, investing consistently, ignoring the pressure to impress others, focusing on results instead of status, focusing on assets instead of appearances, focusing on freedom instead of validation. The millionaire next door is not born lucky. He is built by habits. The millionaire next door is not extraordinary in talent. He is extraordinary in consistency. The millionaire next door doesn't escape the rules of finance. He simply follows them better than everyone else. The average person is trapped in a cycle: earn, spend, impress, repeat. The millionaire next door breaks this cycle and adopts a new one: earn, save, invest, compound, repeat. And this difference in behavior over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years creates a difference so large the world cannot comprehend it. The quiet man who never showed off ends up having more wealth than the loud man who lived flashy. The modest house holds more wealth than the mansion. The used car owner ends up richer than the luxury car driver. The boring business owner ends up wealthier than the corporate star. Because the world rewards those who understand wealth correctly. This book is not trying to teach you how to make impressive purchases. It's teaching you how to never need to impress again. It's not teaching you how to look rich. It's teaching you how to be free. The millionaire next door lives an invisible life with visible results. And if you adopt their habits, their discipline, their philosophy, and their long-term mindset, you too can become the millionaire next door in your own story. Because wealth was never about luck or inheritance or connections. Wealth was always about behavior. Behavior builds wealth. Behavior destroys wealth, and the decision is always yours. So if you are listening to this now, remember this truth. You don't need a higher income to become wealthy. You need a higher standard of self-control. You need a higher level of patience. You need a higher respect for the power of compounding. And you need a lower desire for external validation. That is the formula. It always was. And it always will be. Wealth is quiet. Wealth is invisible. Wealth is built privately, and eventually, wealth becomes undeniable. If this book spoke to you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful insights from the world's bestsellers. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing. This is BookCast, where books speak and you grow.